Good morning. Going to do a little Minivan music history this morning. Today we have Antonio Vivaldi. I'll be reading from this book. You should get it. It's called Lives of the Musicians, Good Times, Bad Times, and What the Neighbors Thought. Written by Kathleen Kroll and illustrated by Catherine Hewitt. Here's a picture of Antonio Vivaldi. One thing is wrong with this picture. You know what it is? He was known as the Red Priest because he had red hair. Obviously, this is a wig. And when they made wigs back then for the gentlemen, they were, I think, almost always white or gray. Antonio Vivaldi. So here we go. Take notes and write down 10 things at the end of this lecture. Discuss it with your grown-up, your teacher, your parent. 10 things that you learned about Vivaldi. He was born in Venice, Italy in 1678. What's Venice known for? The canals. They don't have the streets, they have the canals, and the boats on the canals are called the gondolas. He was born in Venice in 1678. He died in Vienna, Austria in 1741. So in 1678, the United States wasn't even a country yet. Sunny, warm Venice was a place where you couldn't get away from music. Gondoliers serenaded up and down the canals. Fruit vendors whistled. Shoemakers and shoppers sang from morning to night. There was a lot of music in Venice. Festivals, theaters, parties, and religious services required a constant supply of new music. So when you went to church, when you went to Mass, there was always some new music. Antonio Vivaldi's father had big plans for him. He taught him the violin, got him a job as a violinist, and sent Vivaldi into the priesthood when the boy was 15 years old. Father and son played duets at church. By the time Antonio was 25 years old, he took a job teaching violin at the Pietà Orphanage for girls. He was earning 4 times as much money as his father by the time he was 25. Do you know what an orphanage is? It's where, we don't have too many of them anymore, but it's like a boarding house where children who didn't have parents would all live together. Vivaldi was to spend most of his life at the Pietà. So Vivaldi was a teacher, the music teacher, the violin teacher at the Pietà. And this turns out to be absolutely awesome. Next to the big iron gate of the orphanage was a little nook in the wall, like a little shelf, a little cutout, where every morning the porter checked for new arrivals. Orphaned or abandoned babies were given a home and taught music. Sometimes the mom would not live through childbirth and the baby didn't have a mom, and a lot of people were very sick back then and they did not live a long time. So sometimes there was just no family left. So somebody had to take care of these babies. And that's what Vivaldi and other kind people at the Pietà Home for Girls did. They took care of the babies that didn't have a home. Orphaned or abandoned babies were given a home and taught music. And who was teaching them? Antonio Vivaldi. Wow. The girls gave concerts that were a highlight of musical life in Venice. They sang like angels, and that is written down. Many people were talking about how fabulous they were. We have it written down in manuscripts that they were very good. Well, how could they not be? Their teacher was Vivaldi. They played their instruments with great skill. It was said that the Pietà had the best disciplined orchestra in Italy at that time. Yet the girls were seldom ever seen. At concerts, they were hidden from the orphanage by an iron gate, possibly because some were deformed. Since they performed in a church, no applause was allowed, and people expressed enthusiasm by coughing, shuffling their feet, and blowing their noses loudly. So after the orchestra of the girls would play, that had been taught by Antonio Vivaldi himself, people weren't supposed to clap. It wasn't proper. So they would shuffle their feet or cough or stomp or something. I think that's kind of funny. And here's a little picture of a little baby that got left in the wall. And maybe that little baby got to take violin lessons from one of the greatest masters of music who ever lived. Vivaldi had to make sure everything ran smoothly. During intermissions, he would keep people entertained by playing the violin. He had thick, curly red hair, and sometimes he wore red robes. More people knew him by his nickname, the Red Priest, than by his real name, Antonio Vivaldi. But he did not seem especially priestly. He didn't say mass, which meant he didn't preach the church service. He said that his weak condition, possibly asthma, prevented him from getting through a long religious service. So if you have asthma, oftentimes you can't talk for a long time or sing for a long time because you get out of breath, and it's very difficult to. So he had to find something else to do. But others said he was forbidden to say mass because he was always disappearing from the altar to write down musical ideas. So if he was in training to be a priest starting when he was 15 years old, if he got an idea of how a piece of music should go, there he goes. He's going off to get a pen and paper and write something down. Vivaldi may have been sickly, but he worked hard. He taught violin, conducted the orchestra, performed at concerts, and he bought musical instruments for the school. So all these little baby girls, probably when they were about 4 years old, they were given a violin by Antonio Vivaldi. Outside of the orphanage, he toured in support of his own playing and composing. Vivaldi wrote music for all occasions. He was one of the most prolific composers in the history of music. A prolific composer is somebody who writes a lot of music. Vivaldi must have been full of energy and probably didn't have time to be temperamental. He didn't agonize over his work. He was deferential to those in authority, and he never seemed to get in trouble. I think I like that about Vivaldi. He was a nice guy. I mean, he's buying violins for little 4-year-old girls who don't have parents and teaching them to play. So as they're with him for the next 10, 12 years, he and the church and the workers at the Pieta are taking care of these little girls, and he's teaching them how to play the violin. Sometimes Vivaldi was playful, and he was very funny, and he put jokes in his music. He was terribly sensitive to criticism. He was very sensitive, so it was notoriously vain. He liked to boast about his fame, his rich patrons, and his ability to write music so quickly. Don't like that too much. But anyway, some people think he sometimes lied, saying he had written 94 operas, for example, when he only wrote 49. Vivaldi was obsessed with money. He always asked the highest possible price for his music. But he also spent his money. And what was he buying? He was buying violins for these little girls, and he was teaching them to play the violin. When he died, he was 63 years old, and it was from some kind of mysterious inflammation. We're not quite sure. But he died poor, and his music was no longer out of fashion. People wanted to hear a new style. Not until the music of Bach was rediscovered over 100 years later, and then it was seen how much Bach respected the Red Priest, and interest in Vivaldi's music came back. So Bach, who we're going to talk about next time, there he is, Johann Sebastian. His love and respect for Vivaldi's music is what brought it back in popularity. So here's some very interesting additional facts. The Four Seasons. I bet you've heard some of the Four Seasons by Vivaldi, but you just didn't know what the title was. The Four Seasons is a set of 4 violin concertos. Is one of the best known works in Italian musical history. Parts of the music were meant to sound like turtle doves and goldfinches. What are turtle doves and goldfinches? They are birds. Parts are supposed to sound like flashes of lightning, a barking dog, fierce wind, and chattering teeth. While for many people today, this is Vivaldi's most important, beautiful work, it was also voted the most boring composition by the New York radio listeners in 1984. I think it is really fun, and it's a great piece of music. You're not going to think it's boring. I think those people thought it was boring because they've heard it too many times. So until you've heard it too many times, it's not going to be boring. So that is one of your required listenings, and there's a link below. If Vivaldi was really in a hurry and he was writing some music, he would borrow tunes from earlier music that he already wrote or other composer friends, which is okay. But then, so did other musicians of the time. Everybody did it. One of Vivaldi's greatest admirers, Johann Sebastian Bach, who we're going to do next week. Whoop, where is he? I'll find it. He borrowed some of Vivaldi's works and used it in his own composition. So a little melody, a little phrase that he liked a lot, he would say, "Oh, that's so pretty. I want to put that in my next piece." And it becomes something else. And unless you're really, really good with music, you'd never hear it or you'd never realize it. But it's perfectly fine, and it's actually a compliment. Because if one person or somebody like Johann Sebastian Bach borrows something that you wrote and writes a whole thing about it, it's a compliment. It's like, wow, that was awesome. I want to use that in something of mine. Thank you for that. This is great. Let's make some more music with it. In 1989, 2 of the top 10 compact discs selling in England, a compact disc is a CD, were of Vivaldi's music. That's probably the Four Seasons. So I hope you enjoyed learning about Vivaldi today. Write down 10 things that you learned about Vivaldi, where he was born. Let's go over this. What country was he from? He was from Italy. He was born in Venice in 1678, and he died in Vienna, Austria in 1741. What was his nickname? What did he buy? What did he do? Where did he work? What were the Four Seasons? All that kind of stuff. So anyway, hugs and love, and go listen to your Vivaldi pieces. Bye.